Welcome everyone from all over the world listening to VB 2020 today. My name is Minhee, the chief of the Financial Security Institute in South Korea. Today, we are going to discuss the TA505 threat group, which is conducting a massive cyber attack on a global scale. It first appeared in 2014 and delivered a large-scale attack against the entire world, including South Korea, Asia, Europe, and the United States in 2019. During our session, we will go over its latest trends and countermeasures, focusing on the attack TTP of the TA505 threat group, which exists until today. Before I begin my presentation, let me introduce myself. I'm currently working as a threat analyst in the Computer Emergency Analysis team of the Financial Security Institute in South Korea. I will call it FSI from now on. My main duty is to analyze ransomware and imposter malware distributed to financial sectors. I'm also in charge of verifying vulnerabilities received through a bug bounty operated by FSI. Before joining the FSI, I worked in the lab malware analysis team. I'm interested in malware analysis, especially in thorough analysis of the algorithms used by malware and in tracking down threat groups. Also, I'm in the main author of the Threat Intelligence Report, Follow the Trail of TA505, published by FSI in 2020. Daegyu Kang, who prepared this presentation with me, also works in the Security Operations Center under FSI. He mainly carries out malware analysis and research, and completed the K-Shield education hosted by the Korea Internet and Security Agency. In addition to his research on adversarial machine learning, he recently assisted in analyzing and backtracking the TA505 group. Currently, he is conducting security threat research in the dark web while performing network security work in the financial sector. This is the table of content to be presented. Today, we are going to discuss the result of profiling TA505, the malwares distributed by the TA505 threat group, the statistical data analysis of spear-phishing emails distributed to the Korean financial sector collected by the FSI, analysis on the association for the PIN7 group, which has a similar flow to the TA505, the recent trends of the TA505 threat group, which are currently attacking overseas, and ways to effectively respond to the attacks of these TA505 threat groups. First of all, let's look at the profiling results of the TA505 threat group. Since the earlier half of 2019, a massive cyber attacks targeting the domestic financial sector have continued to occur. A large volume of spear-phishing mails, cleverly disguised as invoices, resumes, air tickets, and tax bills, were being sent out to corporate executives and employees to induce infection. Malware infection can lead to a leakage of critical information from companies or a serious damage on encrypting critical files related to their work. TA505, which we are discussing today, is a group of threats behind the 2019 cyber attack on the domestic financial sector. TA505 threat group has been carrying out active attacks until recently, starting with malwares called Dridex for the sake of the financial information since 2014. It mainly attacked financial and energy-related industries by using ransomware and remote-controlled malware overseas. Mostly, it used spear-phishing mail to spread malware such as Dridex, Locky ransomware, Flood-Amy, and Clop ransomware, making massive attacks against South Korea from 2019. Now, let's get acquainted with the attack strategies, techniques, and procedures used by the TA505 threat group. TA505 threat group disseminates malware to companies or organizations, such as financial institutions, manufacturing companies, or hospitals, not to individuals. Successful attack using the spear-phishing mail may lead to a massive damage. Spear-phishing mail is sent with an open subjective, which collects information by spreading malwares for the sake of email addresses and information. The collected email addresses can be used for additional spear-phishing email attacks and etc. Secondly, techniques. Malicious attachments from the spear-phishing mail sent by the TA505 threat group use various formats such as Excel 4.0 macro, VBA macro, and HTML with encoded binaries to bypass vaccine detection and download additional malware. Downloaded malware is also encoded to bypass vaccine detections so that it acts as the malware after performing the decoding process inside the memory. Malware then scans workgroups of infected PCs to determine whether they are individuals or businesses. If workgroup is default value of the workgroup, it stops malicious behavior and deletes it by itself. If the AD server domain value is returned, it is judged to be a corporate PC. If it is a corporate PC, it attempts to hack the AD server using SMB vulnerabilities against the enterprise's internal network and using the additionally downloaded hacking tool Cobalt Strike. If it uses the AD server domain, it attempts to steal the AD server administrator account and use the TinyMat malware to connect the reverse shell to the CNC. If an AD server administrator account is captured, it uses an AD server administrator account to propagate Clop ransomware to internal network PCs. This figure shows the attack procedure of the TA505 threat group. The initial infection begins with a malicious file execution attached to the spear-phishing mail distributed to corporate executives and employees. After the initial infection, remote-controlled malware is downloaded and information from the infected PC is stolen, and additional malware is downloaded. Then, the internal network AD server administrator account is taken over through additional malware such as Cobalt Strike, and significant damage occurs due to internal network ransomware infection. Now, in the second chapter, we will discuss the malware distributed by TA505. This picture shows a link to malware circulated by TA505 threat group. The TA505 threat group attacks use multiple malware depending on the attack lifecycle chain. Detailed analysis results on malwares collected by the FSI, from spear-phishing mails for initial penetration to remote-controlled malware to ransomware that is finally used to infect the enterprise internal network, and related analysis of each malware was prepared. I will briefly introduce each malware. First, malicious document is attached to the spear-phishing mail and distributed in order to download additional malwares. Cloud Amy is remotely controlled malware that can steal infected phishing information and carry out additional attacks. Clop ransomware is a ransomware changing the extension to Clop. Amadeibot is exploitation of infected PC information and additional malware downloads can be carried out. Email stealer steals email information that exists on infected PCs. TinyMat is a reverse shell connection to attacker server is available depending on options that are enabled. Lastly, STVBot performs remote control functions by injecting malware into normal service. But how can we assure that those malware came from the TA505 threat group? Let me tell you the 4 evidence I used to judge. As shown in this picture, the TA505 threat group has a common thread that many malwares use the same packers. The process of creating encoded P binaries with the final malware P binaries after a step-by-step decoding process is a common feature found for malwares distributed by the TA505 threat group. This describes the process of operating the packers used by the TA505 threat group. I will briefly introduce the operation process of the packer. Malware allocates virtual areas using the virtuallogex API. The value of the hard-coded 4-byte XOR key at a specific offset in the data section and the encoded shellcode present at the offset immediately after the XOR key are then decoded to the virtual memory allocated by repeating the operation through the ROL4 algorithm. Finally, it is moved to the address of the virtual memory where the decoded shellcodes exist. This figure shows the typical malwares distributed by the TA505 threat group. This figure shows the typical malwares distributed by the TA505 threat group. We can see that floodAMI, email stealer, and Clop ransomware are having the same unpack routine. The second evidence is the repeated usage of a typical valid digital signature. Many other malware also uses valid digital signatures to avoid vaccine detection. However, the TA505 threat group can be identified by usage of the same digital signature repeatedly, unlike others. floodAMI malware and Clop ransomware once distributed malware with the same digital signer, though the signing time was different. In addition to these cases, it was confirmed that a number of malwares distributed malwares with the same digital signature. As a third evidence, there was a case where the CNC server downloaded malicious document files to store the stolen information of floodAMI malware. In this case, two malwares were distributed from the same group. Additionally, it was confirmed that email stealer and floodAMI malware were downloaded from Amadei-bot malware at the same time, and TinyMet malware was downloaded through floodAMI malware. Now, let me tell you the result of analyzing its malwares in more detail. floodAMI is a remote control malware created based on the leaked source code of AMI Admin Remote Desktop Software version 3, which is used by more than 80 million people. The most important issue was that they were targeting companies, and as I said in the previous TTP, they searched the workload of the PC to determine whether it is a company. While analyzing a number of floodAMI remote control malware samples, it was found that when CNC servers were transmitting infected PC information, many IPs used the same IP band of the hosting server. The IPs used at this time are still being used for TA505 attacks. Next, it's about Clop ransomware, which brings about $300 million loss when one infects a company. The Dutch University of Maastricht and Rouen General Hospital in France was once infected by this Clop ransomware. Actually, each operation process is not significantly different from other ransomware. Now, we are focused on techniques for antivirus detection and bypass used by Clop ransomware. For Webroot and Panda vaccine, Windows restore point deletion is not performed under the presence of the process. If malware byte exists, it is deleted by executing the uninstall program. If malware byte exists, it is deleted by executing the uninstall program. In the case of ESET, search for the product code in the log file at that path and delete it with the msi-exec command. With Kaspersky presence, changing the extension to Clop 2. In the case of unlab, the first process is searched, and files with ransomware strings are excluded from encryption, and JPG files are excluded from infection to bypass the decoy file. With the checkmark vaccine, the uninstall program is executed, but in response to this, checkmark is changed to enter the security code for deletion. In addition, a routine to search for MegaP vaccine was added in February of this year, and it is deleted with the msi-exec command. Also, while tracking the Clop ransomware, we discovered a new type of malware. This small-size malware used the TA505 customer packer and has the same digital signature as Clop ransomware. It neutralized MSE and Windows Defender, which are basic vaccine provided by Microsoft. As of 14 January 2020, Microsoft ended technical support for Windows 7. This can be the result of companies' upgrade on their OS to Windows 10. The following is the Amadei-bot malware. There is no significant difference from general bot malware except the result of checking additional malware on the CNC server of the TA505 threat group. I was able to find the function code showing the TA505 manages both IDs and task IDs. Based on this, it was concluded that the infected PC is being systemically managed. Next is the email stealer. Because of the first infection of TA505 started with spear-phishing emails, the TA505 was concerned about securing email addresses for corporate employees. It steals account information in the past where Outlook and Thunderbird-related information is stored, collects the address book list, reads the file on the PC, parses the email addresses, and sends it to the attacker server. They will send spear-phishing emails back to the email address they collected. The TinyMed malware is distributed by adding a malware self-deletion function to the published source code of TinyMed 0.2 version used to reverse share of text and packing it with a custom packer of TA505. The Fin7 threat group, which I will explain later, also used a malware called baby method that changed TinyMed's code. We will discuss it again in the session of how it related to Fin7. Now it's about STBbot. STBbot is a malware that uses application shimming technique. The application shimming technique used to resolve application compatibility issues allows the application to modify the program code by inserting the shellcode specified in the shim database before it is invoked from the window at the time of an IAT call. This is the technology that malware often used to maintain continuity. The operation process of STBbot malware is shown in this figure. It uses the application shimming technique to maintain persistence and features more detailed functions that can be performed while communicating with the attacker server. I will explain in more detail the application shimming technique used by STBbot. When the DLL file downloaded from the attacker server is executed, the malicious STB is installed and the malicious shellcode is stored in the registry. After that, whenever the service process, a normal process, is executed, a specific function of the service process is replaced with malicious shellcode stored in the registry, and the malware operates accordingly. Let's take a closer look at this concept. When checking the malicious STB with STB Explorer, every time a specific function of service is executed, it is replaced with the malicious shellcode in the lower left corner. This malicious shellcode is stored in the registry. We just went over the malwares distributed by TA505. I understand it was a little bit complicated concept. As a refresher, let's take a look at the statistics collected on the spear-phishing emails distributed by TA505. This is the basis on an analysis of around 100 of times of the TA505 threat group's domestic target spear-phishing emails collected from VirusTotal from February to December 2019. According to the monthly classification of the spear-phishing mail and analysis on the average time spent on sending, it has been confirmed that the TA505 threat group's spear-phishing mail is concentrated in a time period of around 2 hours from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. in Korean Standard Time. This shows day-to-day statistics on the spread of spear-phishing mail to local financial firms by the TA505 threat group in 2019 that were detected by the Financial Security Control Center of the Korean Financial Security Institute. Analysis on total of 612,021 spear-phishing mail cases from 1st of February 2019 to 31st of December 2019 revealed that about 81% of all spear-phishing mail were sent out on weekdays. Statistics also show that TA505 threat group generally spreads spear-phishing mail before 9 a.m. on weekdays, which is the usual office hour for local executives and employees. This result proves that TA505 has an ability to identify the time zone with the highest infection rate and use it to attack by sending spear-phishing mail to executives and employees of domestic companies on the corresponding time period. Now in Chapter 4, let's look at the connection between TA505 and Pin7. Pin7 is a threat group that has been carrying out attacks on US retailers, restaurants, and lodging businesses since mid-2015. Like the TA505 threat group, it uses Russian language to spread malware through spear-phishing mails. The ultimate goal is to capture financial information through point-of-sale post-malware distribution. This picture shows the cyber attack lifecycle presented by FireEye. The analysis found that two groups were very similar in CNC server IPs, cyber attack lifecycle, and the malware used at each stage. Thus, we will discuss the result of the analysis on the link between TA505 and Pin7 threat group based on this lifecycle. First, we found common ground in early presentation to abuse Microsoft Office document files. Both groups disseminate malicious documents, including malicious macro code, via their spear-phishing mail intruding into the target system. Second, we both used attack tools called FloodAmy and CoverStrike in the stage of securing the foothold. The CNC server of CoverStrike, an infiltration test tool, is expressed as team server, and the victim PC is expressed as beacon. The CoverStrike was first discovered during an analysis on the hacked PC by the TA505 threat group in February 2019. In addition, a security firm called Foxit released a list of CoverStrike's team servers on GitHub, confirming that some of the IPs used as CNC servers by the TA505 threat group matched the list. Third, it is assumed that in case of elevating privileges, Mimikatz, which elevates privileges as one of the functions provided by CoverStrike, was used. The failure to launch Mimi string inside the FloodAmy remote-controlled malware shows that the elevation of privileges was attempted through Mimikatz. First, the batch script was used for internal reconnaissance. Both threat groups used the network scan features batch script to identify active domains. Fifth, RDP and PSE-EXEC were used for internal diffusion. The remote control shellcode of SDB-bot malware distributed by the TA505 threat group includes the ability to activate and install remote testers. 6. SIM database and TinyMet are used to maintain connection. The Pin7 threat group is known to use the TinyMet malware known as Baby Metal, and the TA505 threat group also used the TinyMet malware to connect to the CNC server from an infected PC. In addition, it was disclosed in FireEye in 2017 that the Pin7 threat group used SIM database to install remote-controlled malware and to maintain continuity. Lastly, the attacker disseminates malwares to multiple PCs through above cyber attack lifecycle. In the case of Pin7 threat group, it disseminates the post malware while the TA505 threat group disseminates the Clop ransomware in the end. In addition, the CNC IP used by the Pin7 group was identified in part of matching the TA505 threat group's CNC server IP. In the fifth chapter, let's take a look at the recent attack trend of the TA505. Recently, spear-phishing emails attached HTML files to induce additional malware download. When the HTML file is executed, it shows a fake loading page for downloaded as shown in these pictures. And the simple JavaScript code leads to the page for actual download. In addition to this, there was also an HTML file that was connected to the download page by entering a simple arithmetic operation value as a captcha code. As such, HTML files are being used in attempts to avoid the recipient's suspicion and to bypass vaccine detection. The additional download is usually an Excel file, and when executing the Excel file, the DLL file of the remote control function is dropped and executed. Now let's look at how we can counter these TA505 attacks from a more realistic point of view. The first infection of TA505 comes from spear-phishing emails. So now let's look at how to detect these malicious emails. Mail security solutions must be applied to block malicious emails in advance. In addition, since the effect is different for each blocking method, the blocking rate is increased by overlapping application of various techniques. Verification such as RBL and IP address-based email authentication technology and SPF and IP sharing list for sending spam mail should be performed. For a more effective response, security technologies such as DKIM, which is an email authentication technology that utilizes a public key structure, and a domain-based email authentication protocol DMARC should be additionally applied. In addition, it is necessary to block spam mail through pattern inspection and reputation inquiry. For emails that have passed the spam email blocking, it is determined whether it is malicious through a vaccine detection of the attached file or dynamic analysis technique of a link included in the email in a sandbox environment. In the network separation environment, when external mail is viewed in the internal business network, the threat can be eliminated by converting the mail into an image format and delivering it to the business network. The most important thing is to improve the security awareness among executives and employees. Regular training of responding to imprisonment accidents can improve the security awareness and responding ability of employees. In addition, it is necessary to understand the attack flow of TA505 threat group to minimize damage and to prevent damage by quickly applying the latest IOC for the TA505 threat group to the detection rule. The TA505 threat group's attack feature is to carry out the attack with a long, non-one-off lifecycle starting with the infection of corporate executives and employees' PCs, as well as the leakage of information from the company's internal network system and attempts to infect it with ransomware. Even now, the TA505 threat group continues to launch all-out attacks on the overseas industries as well, requiring us to be prepared thoroughly. I look forward to helping you respond to the threat associated with the TA505 threat group in various areas. Thank you for listening to my presentation today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me through my Twitter or email. I hope you stay safe and always take care of your health in this matter. Have a nice day. Thank you.